hear me? Hello! Welcome to the first day of Sinister Seminar, and class is officially in session. Hello, my name is Richard Berwind, and I will be your quote unquote instructor throughout the course of this podcast. Please make sure to take notes because I will be testing you on what we cover in this episode. I won't be. Anyways, this is the inaugural episode of Sinister Seminar, a history of horror podcast where we will be taking a journey through time and examining influential works, story structures, motifs, symbols, and archetypes that have all led up to the landscape of the horror genre today. Before I get too ahead of myself, I think some introductions are in order. Like I said, my name is Richard Berwind. I am a queer man in my mid 20s living in the New York City metro area, which means it was an inevitability that I would pull out a microphone and start recording a podcast. I have two BAs, one in writing and the other in English, as well as a MFA in writing, which is why I ended up in New York City in the first place. Though I've always wanted to live here, ever since my parents moved us from New York to Pennsylvania when I was 3. Now, I've kind of always been a horror fan, or at the very least, a horror adjacent fan. My favorite holiday was always Halloween. I loved dressing up, the candy, the prosthetics, the masks, but particularly the Cartoon Network Goosebumps marathon that they had every year. I'd always plop myself in front of the TV and go to town on some popcorn. In my small town in Pennsylvania, we did not have a Hollywood Video or a Blockbuster. But we did have this little mom and pop shop called 48 Hour Video, and I would make my parents go in and rent plenty of Goosebumps titles. The Haunted Mask 1 and 2, Night in Terror Tower, The Werewolf of Fever Swamp, and Welcome to Dead House were frequently loaned out to my household. I was also a big reader, so I had nearly all of the Goosebumps books as well as the Goosebumps Horrorland titles. From there, my fascination with the horror genre developed as my mom would show me some of her favorite horror movies as I was growing up. I was definitely watching blood, guts, and gore at an age that most would view as inappropriate, but it's fine. One summer growing up, I decided to read Stephen King's It, and I want to say it was the summer between 6th and 7th grade. I had read Stephen King before that, but it was my first foray into a title that was over 1,000 pages, and I wanted to challenge myself to read it, which I did successfully. I also kind of had a morbid fascination with the Gothic around this time, consuming much of Edgar Allan Poe's work, and quite honestly, he was the earliest influence on my own writing as well, as one of the many reasons why I started writing to begin with. After high school and undergrad, I would host Halloween countdowns where every night my friends and I would gather in someone's room or sometimes an empty classroom and watch a carefully curated list of horror to get us into the season, something that I still do to this day. And while I love horror as a genre, that's not the end all be all. I also love romance and drama and period pieces, historical examinations, science fiction. I do contain multitudes, sometimes. Uh, if you want to see some of my favorite movies, go check out the show's Instagram at Sinister Seminar and check out my countdown to the show to see what those are. But to tease, some include Flanagan shows, Jennifer's Body, Bones and All, among others. When I was originally conceptualizing the structure of this podcast, I drew mostly from all of the English courses that I had taken in my lifetime, from high school to grad school. What does that mean for this podcast in particular? Well, it is my hope to start at the beginning. And if I'm correct in assuming, you might be thinking of a very particular story as the start of the horror genre, which you are correct in thinking so. But that story did not come from nothing. No stories come from nothing. As all art and literature starts, there is a nebulous amount of tropes, archetypes, and story structures that get recycled time and time again. So, much like high school English class, I am starting with the Iliad, the Odyssey, the classics, Shakespeare, stories that provide a groundwork to our understanding of how stories work. From there, we will take a closer look at particular moments, writers, subgenres within horror that become icons in and of themselves. Structurally, I will be breaking each season down into 12 subsections that explore a particular concept, and then pair it with 3 movies or TV shows that I believe to exemplify the material that I explored in the primary 12 episodes. If you have come from my social media at all, or even gazed upon the first episode of the first season, since it will be uploaded at the same time as this one, you will already see that this first season will focus primarily on Greco Roman mythology. We will cover a fraction of an innumerable amount of concepts that have survived thousands of years of storytelling. Each season will consist of 48 episodes, and will be released weekly on Wednesdays, or at least that is the plan for now. In addition to that, I will be uploading a bibliography and works cited, as well as a transcript of each episode to the Sinister Seminar website within 24 hours of each episode airing. To find a link to the website, I will attempt to put a link in the show notes, but you will also be able to find it on any of my socials at Sinister Seminar. With all that being said, I am so very excited to get started on this journey with you all. Please bear with me in the beginning as I get everything settled and operating. This is going to be a trial and error all the way through, but I do hope you stick around to see the show grow. I've put a lot of time and love into this, and it is so exciting to finally be getting started. Thank you for listening to this inaugural episode, and I hope to see you again in the very first episode. Until then, thank you for joining me. Stick around for credits, and class is dismissed. This podcast is researched, recorded, edited, and produced by me, Richard Berwin. You can find more of me on Instagram at Richard J. Boy. That's Richard J. B-O-I-I-I. Or on Twitter at Berwind Richard. You can follow this podcast everywhere at Sinister Seminar, including Blue Sky, Twitter, and Instagram. Make sure to hit follow and leave a like, comment, and rating on your podcatcher of choice. Thank you for listening.